EU lawmakers maybe riffing on some of that bad black eye vibes in the market. Okay, the EU lawmakers, they said, we're giving, quote, prohibitive requirement on banks, end quote, if they want to hold crypto, right? They have to have €1 for every €1 of crypto that they hold. These capital controls are stricter than traditional banks would face. And I guess the idea here is if we make the bar quite high, only those who are adequately capitalized can participate in these markets. And hey, maybe that's a good thing. And maybe it may also dissuade banks from getting involved in the first place. So from a regulator perspective, maybe that's the goal. We'll see. This is the EU. They've obviously been hashing out these things pretty heavily over the last 18 months. A ton of regulation has come out of the EU looking at how to regulate this growing asset class. I'm going to toss this to Jen for her initial thoughts. What's your take on this one?
Well, when I was reading the story, I thought back to the last bull cycle. All that time ago, it feels like it was so long ago. And we talked so much about banks getting into crypto because users were demanding it from them, right? They had to find a solution. How can they offer crypto to their users? How can they hold on to crypto to be able to participate in what was going on? And now we're in the bear market and no one wants to touch crypto, and regulators are looking at how do we keep all of this contagion within the walls of the crypto industry? How do we ensure that it doesn't spill over to the financial industry? I get that part. I just wonder how this is going to play out in the next bull market when users are now demanding crypto. If regulation is so tight that banks decide to step away from it, it seems counterproductive, right? Regulators are there to protect consumers and allow consumers to operate within some kind of regulatory safe framework. If they're making it so difficult for banks to participate in this, I just feel like it's counterproductive against their thesis. They're pushing consumers into the crypto world, which the regulators won't regulate. And so I just don't think this is going to play out well. I think that we need more flexible frameworks. I don't think coming in and saying, you need to have €1 for every euro's worth of crypto assets is going to actually make sense. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a few concerns here. I think the highest one is capital efficiency. And that's the idea that every dollar I want to use, I want to be able to use it multiple times over and get as much out of that dollar as possible. In this case, €1, right? So if I deposit €1 in the bank, I want to be able to go exercise that euro in multiple different activities so I can make as much money as possible on top of it. And that's how crypto has had a lot of use cases over the last few years. And that's honestly how we got into a lot of problems with crypto, where a lot of people were taking crypto, stuffing into a DeFi account, and then taking tokens from that account, stuffing it somewhere else, and you get all this yield stacked on top of itself. And if you don't do that correctly, you can have contagion. And I think that's what these banks are really worried about, is if we have too much crypto in these exchanges or in these banks, it's not used correctly, then you can cause contagion because those dollars are not stacked correctly. At the same time, you want that capital efficiency because I want to get as much out of my euro as possible. So you have to find a really nice fine balance. And that's why banks always have these restrictions on how much capital can be deposited at a bank, because you need to find that balance again between how much I'm going to lend out versus how much I need to keep on my books in order to protect myself against a run on the bank. So that's one thing just to be cautious about when you're ever drawing up legislation like this. The thing that really worries me, however, is oftentimes these rules get placed and then they're not changed for decades, right? And crypto is new. If we see something like this happen and it's very prohibitive against capital efficiency or it's prohibitive against innovation in the space, it's unlikely you see these changes in the text of law once it's passed for quite a while. And that could really hurt the European market for further crypto growth, like we've seen in other places. So I wish they would just pause a little bit longer or at least be a little bit more flexible, just like you said, Jen. But we will have to wait. Wendy, up to you.
Really quick, you guys, is banks don't actually have all the reserves that we think they do. So that is something important to note. In addition to that, why can't crypto companies just run like businesses and actually make money from the trading fees and then not touch the other crypto? Is that a hard concept to grasp?
Evidently it is, Wendy.
It really makes you think. We're really thinking about that one.